Back here on SportsLine, Steve Lehman along with Vanderbilt Athletics Director David Williams tonight. Phone lines are open. 737-7767 is the number if you'd like to join in on the conversation. And David, when we look at this, and I asked you this, I thought there were some interesting questions because when the announcement came last week, you were forced to reflect a little bit. I found it interesting before the show tonight. You were telling me one of the big challenges for you right now is you're still on the job. You still have possibly up to the entire year of orchestrating football programs and basketball programs and baseball and tennis and all that to try and achieve their mission and accomplish their goals. But yet this has also been established that you're going out into retirement from your athletic service at some point. How big of a challenge is that to kind of tune out the noise and all the well-wishers, because I know there's been a bunch, and still do the day-to-day grind?
Yeah, I think at first you kind of sort of feel a strangeness about it, but you do have to gather yourself and realize there's still a job to be done. And so, you know, we'll have meetings and you know, I have to make sure people understand, well, it's Tuesday and we have to be ready for Wednesday. And in this case, we need to be ready for what's going to happen this weekend. And even before South Carolina comes in here, you know, our women's soccer program is on a tear. And we play Alabama Thursday night here. And so, got to be ready for that. And so, yeah, it's interesting. You kind of have to make sure that you keep doing what you've been doing and you make sure things get done. And the staff has been remarkable. I mean, they almost see it as, okay, that day is over, let's get back to work. And so I think that it's fine. We're back solidly getting things done, and I'm hoping that we'll have our best year ever.
Over 15 years, you've cultivated the staff the way you want them at this point. You've had a lot of success as well. 4 national championships, 19 SEC championships, which each one of those means a ton, we know, around these parts. So much success on and off the field or court, whatever, in a lot of these programs, but also great academic success as well. When you look at just strictly the on-field team stuff, what stands out to you about what's been accomplished in your tenure?
Well, as far as on the field, I would have to say, obviously, for a university that had never won a national championship, to win 4 of them in 3 different sports. And I think that's important. So it's not a one-sport thing. We won it in 3 different sports. And then also to look and realize that those 3 sports that won those 4 national championships also have 5 national championship runner-ups. And so a lot of people sort of miss that. But then to look at the fact that when you start to think of those championships, those conference championships, they're across almost all of our sports. And so I think it's like 10 sports have won championships. So I think on the field has been the variety of success across the board. It isn't concentrated in just 1 or 2 sports.
When you took over the job, if you're being honest, did you think that Vanderbilt could get to a point where you were winning national championships at that point? Or how did it cross the level to the point where now it's almost expected in some of those sports?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, when you do something, you create expectations. And that's what we used to talk about a lot. Let's create some high expectations. You only do that. I mean, you can't talk your way to that. You have to work your way to that. And so, yeah. Now, did I think that? Yeah, and people might say, no, you didn't. But I did. I really did. And I thought that we needed to identify why we weren't being successful to that level. And I think we were able to see some of the things. And then you have to be strategic. I remember when we added women's bowling, and I remember saying, I think we'll win a national championship, and I think it was 4 years, we won it in 3. And so I kind of knew that, and then once one wins, then you now got it going. And so you kind of saw others wanting to say, well, okay, we can do this too. It was almost like you had to break that ceiling, and then everybody went at it. So, yeah, and then I think the other part of it is I really do believe if you really focus on the life and the development, the total development of the student athlete, they will perform better than you ever thought. And you also want to make sure that you hire great coaches who fit what you're trying to do. And I know people will say, you must be kidding. I actually believe we have the best collection of coaches at any university in this country. And I really do believe that. I mean, those are some great coaches we got there. And they prove it day in and day out. I mean, look at women's soccer. I mean, we were 8 straight. This is the first time we beat Florida since 1997. And we beat them at Florida. And that's a coach we brought in.
Impressive.
And so, yeah, I think that the coaches from top to bottom are top notch.
When you look at some of those coaches, Tim Corbin certainly stands out. Jeff McDonald, women's tennis. Bryce Drew, hotshot that you bring in for the basketball program. Obviously, Stephanie White, who was a hotshot and in the WNBA finals before she came in on the women's basketball side. You can go on and on and on down the list. What has been the selling point for you with them on why Vanderbilt? Why now?
You probably would have to ask them. Man, I think that, I think our coaches do like the focus that we have on the entire student athlete. And they know they're going to have young people who are interested in being the best they can be in sports. They know they're going to be playing or coaching in the SEC, a top-notch, maybe the top-notch conference. They know that these kids are focused on their academics, so they're going to produce that. They're in a marvelous city. You know, somebody asked me the other day about, do you think this is an attractive job? And they said, why? And I said, well, it's Vanderbilt. I mean, what else do you have to say? So I think it's a combination of things. And then I think it's the people that you get to work with. It's the kids you get to coach and the people you get to work with. And, you know, over in the athletic department, it has a family environment. And what I like the most about it is these coaches support each other. And they come to each other's events, and you see the football players at the soccer game, and the soccer kids at the basketball game, and the bowling kids at the tennis match, and the same with the coaches, and they all get along so good. So I just think we got a nice combination. It's what I call the fit. And I think that they like being at Vanderbilt, and they like all that it has to offer.
It's a tight-knit family. There's no question about that. I hear sometimes people say or use Nashville as a negative of why it's harder to get the attendance numbers maybe that you would like at football games or basketball games or something like that. But why has the growth of Nashville been a positive for Vanderbilt athletics in terms of recruitment and getting coaches and all the things that you just mentioned?
Yeah, I think that if you talk to our coaches, they will tell you that Vanderbilt is able to recruit because of Nashville. And it's what Nashville has to offer. It's a city that's on the rise. The people here are great. I think when our student athletes, when our prospective student athletes get to talk to people that have gone through here and they get to look at it, you know, it's remarkable how many of our student athletes move back here and make this their home, and that plays off. So when you come in here and you get to talk to a Shane Foster, you get to talk to a David Price, you get to talk to a Brett Snedeker, all those people, and it's like, well, you're still here. Well, yes, I love it here, and that resonates. And so, I mean, we've had students that have student athletes that have come here that their parents have moved here, and that's kind of like, does that really happen? Yes. Yeah.
That's a good endorsement right there when you get mom and dad to move to town as well. You said something a moment ago as we were talking about sort of the development of the entire athletic program, about when you took over, you had to identify the things that needed to be changed in order to get to the next level. What were the things that needed to be changed?
Mindset and culture were first. We had a mindset. I remember hearing the comments, we'll catch them looking to the next week, or we'll catch them on a bad day. That's not the sign of a champion. That's a sign of hoping you got a bad day. I don't want to beat you on your bad day. I want to beat you on your best day. And so we had to change that culture, that no, we deserve to win if we work hard, and we will win. I think that there was a mindset amongst some people that academic excellence and athletic excellence are mutually exclusive. We had to change that. You can be great in both of them. And that was not just the athletic folks. That was a lot of people that when we win a championship, you know, take women's tennis when they won their championship, national championship, the average GPA of those young ladies was a 3.68. And so you're national champions in tennis and you got 3.68. I mean, we've had student athletes. We have 11 student athletes that are playing for us right now that are already in graduate school. And so, yeah, you can do both of them. And that's something that resonates. And then we just had to realize, and this is the important thing, greatness takes time. And the biggest hurdle to greatness is good. And so it's not good enough to be good. We want to be great, so you got to push that a little further, and that takes time, and you got to be patient sometime. And I think that's the thing that we have been, is our coaches are not looking over their shoulder. They know they will be given the time and the resources to be the best that they can be.
You talk about the academic success, and Vanderbilt has always pushed that, obviously, but for you in particular, with your background in academics, how important has it been that you can cite off stats like that? Like, we've got a national championship women's tennis team, but they're also really smart in getting a 3.7 in the classroom at the same time.
Love it. Love it. I mean, it's because it is that sort of thing that people want to sometimes think that great athletes can't be or are not great students, and I've never believed that. I know that's not to be the truth, and I have always thought that much of the things that you have to put in to be a great athlete, all we have to do is get you to understand that if you put that same amount of work in the academics, you'll be great in that too. And so I'm real proud of the fact that you know, for the 13th consecutive year, the average GPA for our athletic department is over 3 point.
That's impressive.
I mean, it's the sort of situation that we'd probably all faint if we went below 3 point.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly a good sign for what you're doing, and you're doing it right. You're clearly biased, David, but do you ever sit back and, when you think about the success on and off the field for your athletes, think, by golly, all the criticism of the NCAA and student athletes and how they're doing things, we're doing it right at Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I worry about the direction of college athletics sometime, and that we sometime go down the wrong path and we forget what this is all about. And I think that starts with the fact that we are part of higher education, and I don't want a young person to come to Vanderbilt without wanting to get that education. And so, yeah, I do think we're doing it right. I think other places are doing it right. I think other places strive to do it. But yeah, that's kind of been what we said. We're going to do this the right way. And we believe if you do it the right way, you'll have success. So yeah, I mean, I am biased about that. That is an everyday thing in our department. We're going to do it the right way.
I've got a few questions, I guess, for you then off of that about the state of college athletics. When people talk about, we need to pay the players, this is a billion-dollar industry now across the board, we need to pay the players, what do you say to that?
I don't think we need to pay them, and you know, and part of my legal background comes in, and I follow all of the cases. And one of the things is, if you look at the Constitution of the NCAA and you look at the courts, there's a big plus, if you want, where it says we have to keep a demarcation between intercollegiate athletics and professional sports. And really, that the courts have kind of come back and said there's two things that are important in that: education and amateurism. And so whatever those mean, we have to play to those. Now, having said that, I don't think you should pay the student athletes, but I do think that with the money coming in, we owe these student athletes more. We owe them more. And
in what way?
Well, I mean, I think we've done some of it. We actually provide for up to 15 of our student athletes to study abroad in the summer. We actually started the first college internship program in athletics to get them. But all of those things cost money. Sure. And so I'm not paying you, but I'm providing something that's going to make your life better. And I do think I would love for college athletics to get to a point where maybe some of this actually helps student athletes who want to go to grad school. even though their eligibility is up. So I think there's ways in which we need to enhance it. And I was very, very much a proponent of and happy that we got through cost of attendance. You know, it wasn't 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't have cost of attendance. That was important. That was very important that we could get that added on. And that's not a payment, but it does give the student athlete a little bit more variety and a little bit more flexibility in what they can do.
One of the things people have often said is sort of the counter to the we need to pay them is a lot of people say, and I don't even know the exact number right now for Vanderbilt, but what is it, $300,000 or something for a 4-year education or in that ballpark? That's payment, or pretty good payment over the course of time. And it's hard to argue with that point, but is there anything more that schools need to do? And I guess the question I have, or one thing I've always pointed to, and I'm curious of, I guess, your legal distinction of this and also as an administrator, but to me there are very few athletes on a college campus that actually have monetary value to their skill set. Yes, they play for a football team or a basketball team that makes money, but in terms of their individual likeness, it doesn't go very far very often. So should the few, the Tim Tebows, the Johnny Manziels, or whoever out there, be allowed to go out and capitalize on that in this system? Or how do you make it fair across the board where, you know, the superstar football player can go get some of his or hers, women's basketball maybe, but you're not necessarily entitled to give the same benefits to a women's lacrosse player or something like that?
Yeah, you know, I think that's, to me, one of the distinctions between intercollegiate athletics, amateur education, and professional athletics. What I worry about on that name and likeness piece is if you're picking out your star player and you're paying them for their name and likeness, what happens to the rest of the team? And in the pros, you understand that's the business decision. And the fact that you're not playing and I am, I'm going to get more. I mean, that's what a professional thing is. We're not that. And so, no, I'm not in favor of seeing that because I think that it will have a very interesting disincentive to what we're trying to do as it relates to intercollegiate athletics. It takes away the concept of we're dealing with amateurs. You know, the truth of the matter is when you think of an amateur, you kind of think, I'm doing this for fun. Well, you know, yeah, I'm sure they're enjoying it, but, you know, we ask a lot of our kids. I mean, we ask them to matriculate academically in one of the top 15 universities in this country, and then we ask them to play in, I think, the hardest athletic conference in college. I mean, you know, as Derek Mason and other football coaches say, you know, it's the NFL, what is it?
It's the AAA for the NFL?
Yeah, then it's us and the SEC. And it's not just football. I mean, when you think of it, the level of competition in the SEC and the championships they win, I mean, we don't have softball, but think of it, every softball team in the SEC made it to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
baseball,
incredible.
Just about, if you make it to the SEC tournament, you're going to the NCAA tournament. Track and field, you just name it. I mean, the SEC is there. And so we're asking a lot of these kids, and yes, it's absolutely true, they're getting, in many cases, a free or discounted education. But when I went to college, we were getting a free or discounted education, and there wasn't the amount of money that was in the game. Now we have more money, and I just think that education we're giving them needs to be a little bit broader, in the sense that let's give them some things that we couldn't give them when we didn't have the money. I'm really big on trying to get our kids to go internationally. And, you know, we had our women's soccer team that went to Japan this last May. Well, that's not an inexpensive trip.
No.
And we try to get all of our teams out.
And a moment of a lifetime. I mean, I've never been to Japan, and so the idea that an 18, 19-year-old athlete gets that opportunity paid for them in college is pretty special.
We just had 30 of our student athletes in August go to Morocco. And I love when they came back, I met them back, and they were telling me, man, we got to ride a camel into the desert, and it rained on us. Who knew that it rained in the desert? They got rained on and came back. You know, that same sort of program that we run there, 3 years ago, I led the group, and we went to Cuba. I mean, those are advantages that, like you said, they may be a once in a lifetime. We can do more of that.
This is really interesting stuff. Really good stuff with David Williams from Vanderbilt here tonight. We need to take a break. I want to come back. We're going to dive right back into this stuff. Phone lines are open, 737-7767. You're watching SportsLine here on News Channel 5+.